Hello, guys. Welcome back to another ESPN video. I'm Bobby Emmanuel. I'm joined by Colin, Udoh, and Leonard Solms. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. The AFCON is fully underway. Round of 16 is happening, and today we're going to cover Morocco versus Tanzania and South Africa versus Cameroon. We'll start with Morocco versus Tanzania because that was the first game of the day. An interesting game, and Morocco. I don't know. Colin, I'll start with you. I feel like Tanzania had a couple chances to really change the course of this game, and they didn't take them. And I think they had the big chance, like the first big chance of the game as well, which I think they should have scored. So it could have changed the whole complexion of the game. What were your thoughts on that, man? Because Morocco won as I thought they were going to be.
So I'm going to hold my hands up and say, hey, look, when I looked at this round of 16 games, I thought the easiest fixture would be Morocco Tanzania. Just because of the way Tanzania had played in the result that got in the group phase, and how not because of how good Morocco had been, but just the way they went through, and the support from the fans, the fact that Brahimi was doing so good, and then they had Hakimi coming back on. So I thought, you know what, this should be one of the easier quarterfinals fixtures. Morocco should, just win this one easy. But it turns out it wasn't that easy. And like you rightly mentioned, that first chance, the cross came in, and if they had a better striker, that was a goal all day, every day, and twice on Sundays. Unfortunately, I'm not sure, I've forgotten the striker's name, headed the ball backwards instead of towards goal. And then they also had a chance towards the end where they could have got a penalty. They didn't get a penalty. And like you said, some couple of good chances in between. You would have thought maybe they would sit back a little bit and kind of like let Morocco have it, but they did not. They went toe to toe against Morocco, and like I said, if they had like one or two quality players up front, I mean, this game could have gone either way.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think Morocco can almost, even the way their goal came was a bit, which we'll get onto in a sec. The keeper, he had I think he definitely should have saved that. Leonard
laid an egg there.
Yeah, he definitely did. I'm glad you said it. It was a better description than the way I was going to describe it. Leonard, did you catch the game? What were your thoughts on Tanzania's performance? I mean, they showed up.
I think Colin has covered most of what I felt about Tanzania, but on top of that, I thought Morocco were really, really lethargic, really struggled to break them down. Morocco did have a lot of chances, but a lot of their shots were coming from long range. I think against Cameroon, they're going to be okay, because Cameroon play quite an open style. I mean, we saw that against Bafana Bafana, which we'll get onto. Both teams had a lot of chances in that game, but I felt that Tanzania showed that if you set up well against Morocco, if you stay compact, if you frustrate them, there certainly are some weaknesses, even with all the quality offensive players that Morocco have.
Yeah, I agree. And the fact that Tanzania had some big chances, I think that proves that, doesn't it? Let's talk about the goal, because obviously I think they had a goal disallowed, didn't they, for offside? But then the goal they did score, Brahim Diaz, he's cooking this tournament. He's playing really, really well. But the goal, man, the keeper, I want to ask you, yeah, you're shaking your head. I was going to give him, guys, and I want your opinion on this. The only benefit of some doubt I could give him is he looked like he was trying to read a cross, so his weight shifted slightly and it left him exposed, but I still think he should have saved it. Am I trying to give him more credit than he deserves?
So I think two things can be true at the same time, right? Yeah. And to start with, we've got to give credit to Morocco for the quality of the goal, from the build-up all the way until the ball ended up in the back of the net. Hakimi started the move all the way out wide, took one man, tricked him into the shadow realm, and then came forward, found Brahim Diaz with that pass, and then Brahim Diaz did the exact same thing. Sent his mark out to the shadow realm again with one quick dribble. I mean, like, he fake as if he was going one way, and then just cut the ball inside. Defender goes this way, he goes the other way, and I don't know, almost trying to retire the poor gentleman from football. And then the shot. Now, you are right. The goalkeeper, and even I'm sure everybody who was watching was expecting a cross, because he had a teammate in the middle. I'm not sure who that was. I need to keep better track of these things. Was right there in the middle. And then, so the goalkeeper was thinking a cross was coming, but then he went to the near post. And it's a basic rule for every goalkeeper. You should never get beaten on your near post, no matter what. And so he was not expecting it. And once ball went in there, and it was so well placed that the moment he didn't have his body close enough to that post and his hand strong enough, it was always going in. And when you look at the goal from behind, the camera angle behind, how it was squeezed in there, man, you've got to think what's quality, and you've got to give credit to Ibrahim Diaz. Became the first Moroccan to score in 4 consecutive AFCON games, and now he's tournament top scorer, and he just doesn't seem able to stop. So Morocco might not be like they might not be like the best team out there, but between Hakimi and Diaz, they're always going to be a problem.
Yeah, Diaz is showing real quality. Leonard, I saw you shaking your head, man, like agreeing. So what were your thoughts on the goal, man? Is there any flowers or blushes spared for the keeper, or was it just? It was a great strike from Ibrahim Diaz, to be fair.
I mean, I think as far as blushes spared, that's all I was going to say. That it was a great strike. I must say, listening to the two of you makes me think I need to go back and watch it again, because I wasn't sure in the moment what was actually going on in the keeper's head. But I think that probably explains it. That he was just a little bit wrong-footed, because he was expecting the cross to come in.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll talk about the outcome of this game. Obviously, Morocco will go on to play Cameroon, but let's discuss South Africa and Cameroon. Leonard, I have to start with you. Damn, man, I feel like in the second half we were talking just before we started the record. You guys at the second half, I think there was one big chance you guys had, but you threw the kitchen sink at it in the second half, and you just couldn't get it over the line, man. Obviously, you broke the deadlock at one point. But what are your thoughts on the performance overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Bafana Bafana were. I'll start off positive and then get negative. Bafana Bafana were on top for most of the game, but I don't think that we can blame anybody but ourselves for the way that game ended up. Just too many chances spurned. I think that also just the way that when Cameroon had momentum towards the end of the first half and beginning of the second half, Bafana just capitulated. This is a team that is low on confidence, and I think there's some players who Hugo Bruce is somehow going to really have to find a way to bring back the version of themselves we were seeing a few months ago, because this team is barely recognizable at the moment. Cameroon are a quality team. There's no shame in losing to them, but the way that game went, I really feel, as I say, Bafana Bafana have only themselves to blame for that performance.
Is that kind of creeping into where the negatives appear from the performance? Is like you think it was like a lack of confidence, maybe, despite having a lot of the ball?
Yeah, I think that. So first of all, where I'll give Hugo Bruce credit, and where I've given him credit many times over, is he's always given young players a chance, which his predecessors hesitated to do. However, I think a lot of the time, these young players, when they're in and out of the team, they lose confidence. And now some of them, when he's giving them opportunities now, they look like completely different players. Relemo Fokeng had a few bright moments tonight, but that was not the Relemo Fokeng that I'm used to seeing at Orlando Pirates. And I felt the same of Mohau Nkota earlier in the tournament. Nkota was a player I was raving about for his performances in the Saudi Pro League with Al Ittifaq. Hugo Bruce started him in the first game against Angola. I thought he was going to be. I had him as my breakout star for the tournament, but the performances from him at AFCON were well short of what I've seen from him at club level. And I really do think it's a confidence issue with these younger players. But honestly, I think the team has to find it in themselves to rally together during these tough moments. Make sure they don't drop their heads, because in the FIFA World Cup, As much as Bafana Bafana don't have any teams in their group that are really, really terrifying, there will be moments where we're under the cosh and we're going to have to find something. And this performance for me was worrying in that regard. Even though I thought we were going to go further than most did, I didn't think we were going to win the AFCON. So I mean, there's no shame in not going home with the trophy. But heading into the World Cup, I honestly, more than anything, I'm just worried about the psyche of this team.
Damn. So maybe AFCON left some battle scars going into the World Cup. Well, you know, I still feel like there's positives to take forward, of course. You qualify for the World Cup. Certain other teams, we didn't qualify, so there's that to take that to take away from it. Colin, we were talking about the banter you were having before the game with some South Africa fans. What were your thoughts on the game, man? What were your thoughts on the performance? Because Cameroon, they got the job done.
Yeah, look, I hate to see Leonard heartbroken because I mean, like, he deserves better than Bafana Bafana, to be honest. Leonard deserves a better team to support, you know, to be part of, like Nigeria, for instance. Not, yeah. And seriously, look, I'm going to be honest with you, Leonard. Bafana Bafana are going to keep breaking your heart because they're just not a good team. They're at best a mid-African team. So if we're ranking African teams, we rank African teams in terms of Premier League, Championship, and Division 1, right? And when it comes to the Premier League of African football, South Africa are not part of that boys' club. South Africa are in the Championship of African football. And the results speak for themselves. One, they've only won one AFCON in the entire history, and that came 30 years ago. They've only finished in the top four 3 times in 30 years. The last time was in 2000, 25 years ago. They've qualified for Nations Cup here and there, but they've never really truly beaten any proper African giant, you know. So in terms of talent, South African talents are good enough to play at the level of, you know, African leagues and their league. They're not good enough to play at top European leagues. You only have a few. In fact, the last world-class player South Africa had, or that's the last two world-class players I'd say South Africa had playing in Europe, were Benny McCarthy and Steven Pienaar. Outside of that, you don't see many South African players who are good enough to leave the PSL and go to Europe and cut it. You know, Lyle Foster is good, but he's a mid-tier player. He's not a player that you look at and think, oh, he's a striker. I'm going to put him on the same level as Osimhen or Mo Salah. You know, you can't do that because he's not. He's just not the same quality. So, if truth be told, Bafana Bafana, like you said, I think you pointed out at the beginning of this when we were talking about before going to the AFCON, they are greater than the sum of their parts. And that's mostly for two reasons. One, you know, a lot of them play in the PSL between Sundowns, Pirates, and what's the third one again? Sundowns, Pirates, and the Chiefs. You know,
you think yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So so there's that cohesion that comes from, you know, playing week in, week out together or against each other and knowing each other, understanding each other. And then they have a great coach in Hugo Bruce who understands African football, has won the AFCON with Cameroon the last time in 2017, I believe. So when you put all that together, it makes Bafana Bafana greater than the sum of their parts. Now, if we want to be brutally honest, we'll say that Bafana Bafana, the way they are structured with the talent they have, cannot win AFCON for maybe another 10, 20 years. And that's just the fact. Until South Africa begin to produce world-class quality players who can leave the PSL and go test themselves against the best in the world in Europe and then come back and bring out. The last time you won the AFCON was Mark Fish. You had Mark Fish, you have Lucas Radebe, who were good players on their own right and eventually ended up, you know, in Europe and became legends in top leagues in Europe. So I guess the fact that we saw this, some of us saw this coming, you know, is testament to the fact that Bafana Bafana are just not a good enough African team, and they will continue to be at best quarterfinal, semi-final team in AFCON. You know, but winners, I don't think that's going to happen anytime in the next decade or so.
Damn, yeah, Leonard, I need your reply, man.
Yeah, I was. If we were going to move on to the next topic, I was going to beg to bring us back.
Yeah.
I got two things to say. One is much more important and probably going to be a little bit more long-winded than the other. So I'll start with the short one. Number one, I think you mentioned the big three clubs in South Africa. I think Kaizer Chiefs fans are going to be using this opportunity to tell Hugo Bruce he needs to bring their players back into the team. But I mean I think the jury's still out on whether or not they really are going to become the force they used to be, even though they've had a better start this season compared to previous seasons.
It's true. I could barely remember their name. Just to show you how bad they've become, I could barely. I mean, before I could just rule out Orlando Pirates, Kaizer Chiefs,
Yeah.
but the fact that I could not even remember their name, I mean.
Yeah, it does. It does
and you're talking this book, you want some problems today, man.
but the more important point, when you were talking about South Africa's history at AFCON tournaments, I think we are a really unique case because we obviously were out of the AFCON for a long time because of the sporting boycott as a result of apartheid, and because of that, I think that even though it's true, I can't deny it. We don't have the record of an Egypt, a Cameroon, and Nigeria. I think that because of that, we feel we're the one country that's allowed to still be excited about our potential and to think of ourselves as giants, even though what we really are is, in my opinion, potential giants. However, I will say that this current generation of players, I really am excited about a lot of them. I think that we still need to see if they can become world class. I've been really excited heading into this tournament about the likes of Mbekezeli Mbokazi, Relebohile Mofokeng, Mohaun Kota, and then players who we didn't see take to the field like Chandra Campbell and Tylon Smith. I think they are on paper better than the previous generation of Bafana Bafana players. But I think Bafana have had a lot of great players who could have been world class, but didn't quite make that level because they didn't respond with the same tenacity to challenges they faced in their careers, compared to some of the players who did and who did become world class, such as Lucas Radebe. So that's why it's been a long time since we've had players like that. I felt Mbekezeli Mbokazi was the one player who showed during this AFCON, during difficult times, he never dropped his head. And I believe he will become South Africa's next world-class centre-back. Some of these other players, I think, have the potential to surpass what the likes of even Lyle Foster have done. Again, I'll cite the likes of Mofokeng and Nkota in particular. But I think we need to see them bounce back because at this tournament, they weren't themselves.
Yeah, no, fair. I think we'll call that 1-1.
No, actually, I don't disagree. Mbokazi is a great talent. He's great. He's got great potential. And you made a good point there that he never let his head get down. I think it was, what goal was that he considered where he got his ankles broken, more or less, for that against Zimbabwe. Yeah, but he stood up and he's been still one of the better players for Bafana Bafana. So yeah, you've got a good point there in the coming generation. But the one thing I would say to that is until they can prove it on the green grass, like we say in Nigeria, until you can prove it on the green grass, you're still not there. So yeah, we'll wait to see that.
So that means in the quarterfinals, we're going to see Cameroon take on Morocco. This is a tasty fixture, man. Two big African giants going at it. Guys, what are your thoughts on this time, man? Who have you got? Colin, and I'll start with you. Who do you think will advance through this one?
Yeah, so look, Cameroon are not at the best, are not going through the best of times right now. Forget what they did against Bafana Bafana. It was Bafana Bafana, so you think they will get through it. Against Morocco, they're going to face a much better test. Like I said, Hakimi has come back from his injury. He's looking really good. Brahim Diaz, is absolutely look, I'm falling in love every day watching him. And so you've got to think that you put those together, you put the rest of the way Morocco is playing, and then the support they're getting from their fans, it's hard to see Cameroon getting past Morocco. I think this is where Cameroon's journey ends.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong case. What's your thoughts, Leonard?
As I was saying earlier, I think that this is the sort of game that's going to suit Morocco. I think that they'll be better against a team that's open because they have so many players that can exploit a team like Cameroon on the counter attack. Cameroon can barely afford to make mistakes if they play their usual attacking game, and I think they will make some. I think I'm going to have to go with Morocco to win this game. Morocco were my pre-tournament favorite to win the whole tournament. I haven't seen quite enough to force me to change my mind. However, I do think they certainly need to get that morale back. They need a better performance, not just a win, but a better performance in this game than in the previous one.
Okay, yeah. So two full house for Morocco going through over Cameroon.
Who are you going for, mate?
I'm gonna go for Morocco as well.
Oh, really?
I was
thinking you're gonna go for Cameroon.
Nah. I think the Brahim Diaz and the home advantage as well. I think the atmosphere there. Now it's quarterfinals. It's just gonna be like a whole nother layer of energy for the team. So yeah, it's gonna be difficult. Plus they have good quality. So yeah. Well, guys, thanks again for joining me. It's been a very interesting one. Leonard, I know not Leonard, sorry, Colin, you're going to face some scuffles and some good chats after this. I'm sure you're going to be able to handle just fine anyway.
I welcome it.
Yeah.
No, got a thick skin.
So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Me and the boys are actually going to fly out to Morocco tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be able to do some content out there. And hopefully, guys, well, Colin, we might see you out there. And I know you're back. But yeah. Guys, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you on the next video.